All right. Call to order. Roll call. Mr. Cotton.
Present.
Ms. O'Brien.
Here.
Dr. Sampson, present. Dr. Solis.
Present.
Ms. Zander.
Present.
Dr. Sampson, before we move with our agenda, I noticed that the agenda is incorrect in that it doesn't include public comment, so I'd like to make a motion to include public comment after we come out of executive session.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Motion
Thank you,
approved.
Patty.
Motion approved. Mr. Cotton.
Yes.
Ms. O'Brien.
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis.
Yes.
Mrs. Zander.
Yes.
Motion approved. All right, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cotton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien.
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis.
Yes.
Mrs. Zander.
Yes.
All right, at this moment, we're going to enter executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, and compensation of public employees, and to discuss any pending litigation. The commission may or may not take action upon coming out of executive session. To enter, motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call. Ms. Cotton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien.
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis.
Yes.
Mrs. Zander.
Yes.
Executive session. All right, welcome back. So we're going to exit out of executive session. In motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Coughlin.
Yes.
Ms. O'Brien.
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis.
Yes.
Mrs. Zander.
Yes.
Okay. So as we came out of executive session, we as a commission will take action upon exiting. And one of the things that we love about the community and our education is that we don't spike the football. We're very good, very humble servants. Teachers are very humble in what we do, and we work very hard to help kids out, and we focus on that as a community, and I think this community has done an excellent job. So first, I just want to say, from the board, from the ADC, from the school board, I appreciate you guys being here. We just want to publicly say again, thank you for the levy that was passed. It came under tremendous work, tremendous effort, and it wouldn't have passed obviously without the community members, and it was resounding with the effort that you guys put in place. And so after that great victory, I think we have to pivot and move on and move forward and continue to put Lorain in a good place. So as a commission, we definitely are proud of the hard work that teachers are making. We're seeing tremendous gains for the kids. Lots of achievement gaps are being closed by our teachers. Graduation rates are starting to go up tremendously, and our high school teachers and admins doing a great job graduating more kids and getting kids ready for the workforce. And moving forward, we have been in negotiation. I've entered into negotiation with Mr. Hardy as willing partners, and the goal with the negotiation is for a transition. Effective date that we're targeting will be January 3rd for Mr. Hardy's transition out of Lorain. And in the meantime, starting tonight, starting this evening, we will start looking for a search firm. So we're going to authorize a RFP to start looking for a search firm, hopefully, to get the process moving. And so there's multiple things happening. And with that as well, we are also going to start as an ADC, working together to find an interim CEO as quickly as possible, heading to our target day, which is January 3rd, 2020. So those are the actions that we're going to take. However, in order to get to our January 3rd deadline, instead of calling multiple meetings again, we have to authorize a motion for me to enter into and sign any agreements that are met between now and January 3rd with the transition of David Hardy being out as CEO. Motion?
Second?
We'll clarify the language, but I'm sorry. Could we, we're voting to authorize the chairman to enter into a transition agreement for the commission.
Okay. Could you come to the mic, please? Mr. Ferris, Attorney General's office. Just clarifying the legal language.
So the vote, it would be a motion to authorize the chairman to enter into the
The mic.
Hello? Hello?
There we go.
So the vote would be to authorize the chairman to enter into the transition agreement for the commission.
So moved.
Second.
All right. With that motion, do we have to take a vote on it? Okay. So, Mr. Cawthon,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis,
Yes.
Mrs. Zander,
Yes.
okay.
And then we need another motion to issue the RFP.
Do we need the motion to issue the RFP as well?
That would be a
Second, separate motion, okay. So could you give the legal language for that as well, please? We already voted on the first one.
The second motion would be to authorize the chairman to issue the request for proposals for a permanent replacement CEO.
No, from the Department
Of Academic Services,
Department of
right?
Administrative
Administrative
Services.
Services generally prepares it. We don't need a vote to get it from them. They would just do it upon request. But once they prepare it, they need to authorize you to then issue it publicly.
Okay. So do I need authorization to send that to them?
You do not need authorization to request the Department of Administrative Services to prepare it. You need authorization to issue it to the public.
Okay. All right. So as we're transitioning and making lots of movements, we need to vote on that one as well.
So moved.
Second.
All right. That was,
Roll call.
hold on a second. It's hard to take notes and be the person that's doing it all at the same time. All right, so we'll put Xander here. All right, so let's vote on that one. Mr. Cawthon,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien,
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis?
Yes.
Mrs. Zander?
Yes.
All right. All good legally? All right, just want to make sure. All right, so with that, we're going to have a lot of movement, lots of transition. I want to invite John from ODE. If you could just come up, please, and have some conversations with us and inform us about the process for the interim component, what that looks like.
Sure. So, John Richard, I'm Deputy Superintendent at this Ohio Department of Education. And just in terms of context, I know a lot of people in the room because I've worked here in the past in the previous version of the commission. But I've been involved both here and in Youngstown, either as a representative from the State Department or in both cases as a member of the commission as well. And having gone through this process a couple times, kind of where we're at is because the current version of the law, as we all know is House Bill 70, is silent in terms of any kind of transition, that the commission is authorized to appoint a CEO. And so there's not really an allowance for a time period when there's not a CEO. As a result of that, first of all, I want to say thanks to the commission for some informal conversations, essentially providing some direction in terms of looking for an interim to take over in very early January based on the target date of January 3rd. And because of those conversations to allow me to look for somebody, we've had some very positive conversations this week with somebody who would, I think, fulfill the wishes of all of the commission members to step in beginning January 3rd, most likely. Nothing is on paper yet or in, written in stone, but that's been the conversation. And we would be looking at an interim then to step in beginning that first week of January and would take over running the district at the direction of the commission. Also, I would highly encourage working with the local elected board as well. And that person would be in place on a per diem basis up until the time the search for the full-time CEO would be finished and we would have somebody in place. Again, because of the conversations with you, giving me that authority to do so, then that person is, I think, prepared to be here till April or to June or July, depending on how the full-time search goes. And so we feel very promising that we can lock that down between now and early December. And assuming this body has a public meeting again in sometime the first half of December, the wishes would be to name that person who would be stepping in early January, and also at that point hopefully be in process with the search for your full-time CEO here as well. And I do want to make a statement about that also, and again, this is just I think having been involved, as I said, in kind of different roles over the years, I really highly encourage, in spite of the current statute, that through that process for the next CEO, to the extent possible, to involve the public here, to involve the locally elected board members who represent the public, and actually to invite a couple board members into that process. While it is far from perfect in Youngstown, I would say that went a long way in terms of everything from who we used as the search firm to, at the same time, who we ultimately ended up with as the CEO in Youngstown and who is new there this year. There's a great deal of support from the community, from the locally elected board and the commission. And as I said, I'll be the first person to say it's not perfect, because I think there's some things statutorily that just kind of, by the way the law is written, put people at a bit of odds. We've done pretty much everything we can to bring those bodies together and to make it have very much a local flavor to it. And so while I can't direct that, I can strongly encourage that of both the commission and the board to do so, and to have some local input into that entire process. I think you'll have a much better experience in the long run, and ultimately it's about the students here in Lorain. Because of having kind of worked here in a couple different capacities as well, my heart is in this place, and it hurts at times to see how things have played out. So I think that process has the best shot at being in a great spot here, hopefully by early summer.
And Mr. Williams, from the ADC side and to the school board, we would love to work together in this search process, and also include the greater community as well. I think that's important, and have everybody kind of take a look at who would be the next person in, and bring our heads all together on that. Okay. Anything else, John?
I think I covered it.
Okay.
If you have a question, feel free to ask. I would entertain any questions from all of you right now if you do have a question. Again, I'm not at liberty to state a name, but I do appreciate kind of some informal conversations with all of you, and I think everybody will, and that's just something we can't do publicly at this point. But as I said, the target would be early December to make that announcement and to take a public vote on that person.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And any of the other commission members? Anything additional? We're good? All right. And this is the component that we made an agenda correction for public comment. And we'll go 30 minutes, 5 minutes each. And we have our official timekeeper, the Pittsburgh Steeler lover. So we're going to open the floor. The public. I don't know if that mic's on or not.
I think it is.
Is it on? Okay. So the mic's down there if you have public comment.
5 minutes per person?
5 minutes
is
per
max.
person,
Okay.
max. 30 minutes max. 30 minutes max for the entire public comment.
Okay.
There we go. All right. You can start the clock.
Hello, I would like to thank you for taking action and removing Mr. Hardy. I will say that I'm concerned that there is quite a few weeks between now and January 3rd, and wonder what kind of power he may have signing contracts, changing contracts. Is he able to still do those things?
So it's my understanding that until the transition agreement is signed, by state law, you still have to have the CEO in power doing day-to-day functions.
Does that include changing contracts, whether it be with his cabinet administrators,
Like
purchasing?
wholesale changes, just fire sale changes, is that what you're referring to, or just day-to-day business?
No, not day-to-day business, actual changes. Like, we had the one that earned almost, strike that, she did not earn, that she received a $20,000 raise. Is he able to change the other contracts to say something similar as well?
That's a good question. So we'll have to refer that to legal. We'll refer that to legal team to figure that one out, because I can't answer that at this moment. I don't know. But that's a great question to bring up.
If I may, I mean, John, how does that play out from the ODE's perspective? Can a person that is on their way out simply do what they want to do in that regard? Isn't that kind of not only unethical but unlawful? Or is that an Anthony? I don't.
It's probably more of a legal question. Currently the answer is that he is the CEO and has statutory authority. I think I would certainly, I guess, encourage conversation along those lines, that it doesn't seem like that would be in the best interest of anybody to make wholesale change over a several week period. So I would have to look to the to the commission and the chair to have some of that conversation. But I guess if you play that out, worst case scenario, to the question you ask, I guess then the counterpoint with that is that I guess technically it could be undone in January when there's somebody else in place. But I think making those desires that we don't want any change is something I would strongly encourage the commission, at the very least, to maybe, if that is felt like it's really needed, to maybe reduce it to writing in some way.
Thank you.
I would look to legal to add anything more to that.
He's a CEO until he's not the CEO, and to the extent hiring and firing and negotiating contracts are part of being CEO, they can still be done, but to the extent the CEO has broad powers now, the next CEO or the interim CEO will also have broad powers, and so things are not will not necessarily remain that way forever.
Thank you for the answer. I do encourage you all to search for someone who will make better decisions for the children of Lorain, our educators, and our taxpayers. We are still receiving phone calls regularly, texts and emails from teachers who are struggling. They are being attacked. We have teachers just within the last couple weeks leaving on FMLA due to the stress and the anxiety and depression and just under attack constantly by building and district leaders.
Thank you.
Bambi Dillon. I understand that your current CEO will have to do day-by-day operations, but to me, giving raises, contracts, that's not the day-to-day operations. Day-to-day is turning on the lights, the gas, opening the doors. To me, there should be something set letting him know that he is not allowed to do that. I'm the Citizens for Lorain City Schools. The teachers were not allowed to help with our levy. The administration was not allowed to help with our levy. We had 5 weeks to do it in, and we had about 15 people that pushed the levy. So really, if that happens, you guys can have some control over the CEO yet. I worked for a company, we had a CEO, but they also had a board of directors that made sure the CEO didn't do any kind of little games that our CEO does. So I really would appreciate it if you looked into it. I don't, by now, we've all about had it. There's people here in Lorain that don't even make $20,000, and the person gets a $20,000 raise. Now, to me, for the citizens of Lorain City to vote a levy in, they do care about the education of our children. They do care about our teachers, our administrators, our support staff. So I think for them to show us the support that we got, you need to show us support and not put up with this. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time?
Oh, we're good. I keep resetting it, so we got to 6:37.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mary Miller. I have 2 kids at Palm, the school that our principal recently, in the morning she was there, in the evening she resigned, turned in the keys, disappeared, hightailed it out of town. It's really hurtful. She was a turnaround principal here. As much as I might not have agreed with what she did, she was, still a nice person to me. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for the kids. My family's been through it all. We went from loving our school, it was calm, it was welcoming, just a general safe sense, to, we had a letter sent home earlier in the year, saying that there was a child in the neighborhood who had a weapon, that they were, then it was off the premises over the weekend. However, they felt the need to inform the parents that there was a child, in our building, and they said there would be, safety procedures in place, but we really never heard anything back after that. And, before I even really get to sit down and talk to her the next time, she's gone. So it's just like, we're just lost in limbo here. And then yesterday, my daughter brings a letter home stating November 11th, it's dated actually, and it says, as the Lorain City School District continues to provide support to buildings in its pursuit of creating a system of excellent schools, it is looking for feedback from parents, staff, and community members. During the month of November, a series of community engagement sessions will be held at specific schools that have been determined to be in need of immediate attention. Based on data collected from the 2018-19 state report cards, the Excellent Schools Dashboard, and data comparison analysis from Achievement Network, or ANET, sessions will be held to garner input from General Johnny Wilson Middle, Palm Elementary, and Frank Jacinto Elementary School parents, staff, and community members. During these sessions, attendees will be given an opportunity to provide valuable input that will help steer each of these buildings forward through positive practices. Attendees have the opportunity to look over the same data used to determine which schools will require immediate attention and to share out their observations and concerns. This process will create viable solutions for each building and be presented publicly during the mid-year State of the District on January 9th, along with the tiering of the buildings placed on their ranking with the System of Excellent Schools. It says all community engagement sessions will be held from 4 to 5 p.m. at their respective buildings. And I'm just going to go ahead and give the dates because a lot of people don't know about this. It's General Johnny Wilson on General Johnny Wilson on Wednesday, November 20th. Palm Elementary is on Monday, November 25th. And Frank Jacinto, Tuesday, November 26th. Again, those are from 4 to 5. I wanted to definitely bring this up and read it so everybody got the information because we're the only school to receive this. A board member, a parent from General Johnny, teachers from both buildings had no idea about this. To me, it sounds like these are buildings in danger of being closed, basically. Nobody really knows that I've talked to, what this means. I believe it was February's town hall where the buildings were tiered and listed and
Mary,
who
you
was
have
in
1 minute.
danger. Okay, I know that Lorain High was one of those buildings, but since the report cards came out, they were then brought up, but Palm wasn't one of those buildings, so I'm like, now we are. I don't understand, and how can we move forward where it's been a fracture, So if anybody can tell me what this means for Palm and for the other schools. And why should a parent be informing board members or other teachers that this is even happening? General Johnny's is on Monday. This is Wednesday night and they have no idea. Frank Jacinto's is on Tuesday, November 26th. That is right when Thanksgiving break is.
This is nothing that comes from us in any way, shape, or form.
And it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Right, and I just don't have another forum to bring it up at, and I wanted the public to be aware, as they should be. It hasn't been an email, it hasn't been social media on anybody's page.
Randall, maybe follow up on, I don't know, because it's something that we have, that has nothing to do with us in any way, shape, or form. And God only knows where origin is, but Mary, you do have, that's 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I'll go ahead and piggyback on Mary.
While it may seem unassuming and you don't know where it came from, if you read House Bill 70, it reads and sounds a lot like some of the first mandatory steps before closing and charterizing a school. So I just want to put that out there for everybody to maybe like perk your ears up and pay attention that that's what they have to do before they start doing the rest. One. And two, Mr. Sampson, the fact that you don't know the answer to the question, like, is he still allowed to hand out $20,000 raises, is kind of incredibly crazy to me. And, or also the fact that you and Mr. Richards, and especially Mr. Anthony Ferris, have almost kind of like a flippant attitude about it, like, well, and that's what we've gotten the entire time we've been under ADC. Well, that's just what it is. Oh, well, he's the CEO. And it's like, well, no, you have legal actions that can be put in place. Why don't you do that, or at least explore them instead of just throwing your hands up? That's all.
Good evening, folks. I'm Jay Pickering, the president of Lorain Education Association. I represent the teachers here in Lorain, and I'm happy to hear what I've heard tonight. Yep. A little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for my folks, and I want you to know first, too, that I'm available at any time. Talk to me. You've heard some allusions to the fact that there's teachers under a great deal of stress here. More than happy to speak with somebody and talk to anybody that's going to be taking over so we can have a good transition. But along those lines, too, I am very concerned about the CEO's ability to continue to enter into contracts on behalf of the school district and using school district money. I am concerned that he might have already entered into contracts with some of his chiefs that could lead to them being paid after their contracts are over here. I would encourage you, because we've actually, I believe numerous times, people have asked a public records request for the contracts of the people that are working here. And I would encourage you to take some action even tonight to at least, if something does occur, you're on record for saying that the CEO cannot spend additional money outside of the day-to-day operations. I'm very concerned about that. I have it from good authority that there might be contracts already entered into by the CEO to protect his people with him leaving, just knowing that this has been under discussion for several months. So for whatever that can be, I think it would be valuable for you guys to take some action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Hi.
I'd like
I
would like to put a motion.
I paused it, so you're...
After public comment to go back into executive session.
I second that motion.
I second that. We need to
vote. Cawthon?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Sampson? Yes. Dr. Solis?
Yes.
Mrs. Zander?
Yes.
Okay. The agenda has been amended to add executive session back in. However, under what terms can we go into executive session from the legal side?
We still have to give a reason.
Can you just read this again?
Okay. So we'll read the same executive session from before. Okay.
Right?
To consider the appointment of employment.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to amend. Just want to make sure that we are entering the executive session that we approve for the right thing, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if you're basically saying you're just going to do it for the same reasons.
Same reasons as
before,
previously.
that's fine. You just read it off when we take the vote.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jessica Castro. I'm a teacher at Palm. The letter that Mrs. Miller read to all of you, none of the teaching staff had any knowledge that that letter was going home. We saw none of the data that it was based on, nor was it included in the letter. And again, I would urge the body to put some sort of cease and desist order in place, because for all we know, the plan is this letter came from somewhere, from the administration building, and we don't know what plan is in place. Perhaps it is, as Summer said, to begin the ball rolling towards privatization of those schools or the closing of those schools. And we have absolutely no idea what that data is based on. I know for our building, we were not at the bottom of the OST scores for the elementary schools across the district. So I don't understand where that came from, nor was it explained to us, but please take action. We don't need our district further decimated. Thank you.
Hi, Alexis Hayden. I'm a teacher at Frank Jacinto. The letter that was just read regarding the 3 schools. I'm here with some of my colleagues from the building. We have several concerns about that letter and about actions that have not been taken in our building. We have brought it to light with board members. There has been no disciplinary actions towards children this year. There has been sexual harassment issues towards children that have not been dealt with. There are teachers out with anxiety. We feel that we're being set up for failure. And now that this letter has come out, that is a very big indication to us that we are being set up to fail. We have asked for materials. We have not been given those materials. If we don't have materials, how are we going to improve? How are we going to help our children? So I'm standing here on behalf of my colleagues, asking the commission to look into this. We are dedicated professionals. We go, we get our hours to renew our license. We look in, we try to find materials ourselves. I'm asking the commission, look into our building. What's going on inside of that building? We are being set up to fail. We are asking for your help. I don't want just head nods. We don't want head nods. We need your help. We don't want to fail. We don't want our building to close. That letter is telling us that's what's going to happen, and that is not right. Nobody has stepped in. We are asking you to step in. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Jeff Codman. I'm not a teacher. I'm a parent. And as such, when we hear that, you're going to get a new CEO, new leader, and there's going to be people making those decisions, and it sounds like a great idea to add some additional board members, et cetera, to get more of the community involved in this. And the one thing that I've been asking all the time is that, with no disrespect to the teachers, because I love the teachers here and everything, the teachers are being represented, but what about the students and the parents? Okay, so it's just a matter of, if you're actually going to look at something, maybe you really ought to look at adding some representatives from either of those groups, because ultimately they're the ones who live with those decisions, and the future of our community is going to be dependent on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's 4 minutes total left. So 4 total.
It only took me 2. 1. I did speak. My name is Christine Miller. I sat on the textbook committee for the elementary K-2 Wit and Wisdom. Fortunately, I was able to move up to 3rd grade, so I didn't have to teach that. But I listened to my colleagues on a daily basis saying how horrible this program is. And you need to really look into the programs that are brought in that are a waste of I don't know if I want to use the word time. Look into Whetstone. Please look into Kickboard. Please look into Wit and Wisdom. They're not helping our kids. It's padding someone else's pocket. So I appreciate that you'd look at that.
Thank you. How much time?
3.5. She was good.
Hi, quickly, I know time is wasting. Is it possible instead of an interim CEO, I know House Bill 70 also allows for a superintendent, and that I feel like that's been missing. So I don't know what the criteria are for the new CEO search or the interim search. Maybe either or can involve a superintendent somewhere along the line. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify in that, like, you can have the CEO with the conjunction of the superintendent according to House Bill 70, and because we've had so many upset after upset after upset, and this is even before Hardy, with administration, if we had somebody who was willing and wanted to actually be the superintendent of Lorain City Schools without House Bill 70, that would be tremendous, because then we wouldn't have the upset after legislation passed to amend it or whatever. We could continue and have some kind of consistency within our administration.
2.5.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much for getting this done. Long time overdue, but thank you. We have a huge, huge, huge mess to clean up, huge wall to climb, but I know all of us, I know our community, we're going to do it. I just want to reiterate what Alexis was saying about Jacinto. I do not teach at Frank Jacinto. I have colleagues that teach there. They call me on a regular basis. Some of them are in tears. They say, for example, that there's fistfights almost every day there, and there is no discipline. No one is doing anything, and they are fearful. So people are going out on FMLA constantly at that school, I hear. Please, again, they are asking for your help, please. All of us here in Lorain City Schools are hearing the same stories about a couple schools. What can they do? Where do they go from here? Is there an action step? Who do they talk to next? Because I feel bad for them. That's horrible that that's going on. Any ideas or? I mean, we've got to get something done. It's unsafe.
So we'll talk.
I think we're moving in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
So we're moving in that direction.
1.5 minutes for anybody. Going once.
Okay.
Going twice.
All right.
All right, can we?
All right, let's vote for executive session, right? So we're going to re-enter executive session. The commission may or may not come out, or may not take action upon coming out of executive session to consider the appointment, employment, discipline, dismissal, promotion, and compensation of public employees, and to discuss any pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Dr. Sampson? Yes. Dr. Solis?
Yes.
Mrs. Zander?
Yes.
We're gonna exit executive session. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Dr. Sampson, yes. Dr. Solis?
Yes.
Mrs. Zander?
Yes.
All right, so we've exited our executive session with action. And our action as a commission is toward the CEO in the current process of transitioning out of respect for taxpayer dollars And with the current CEO separation date that we're shooting for, which will be effective January 3rd, the commission is expecting the CEO to not enter into any new contracts and/or adjust current employees' contracts. Any applied spending or contracts that will be entered to, our recommendation is to have conversations with the ADC about those contracts. Okay. All right. And the meeting adjourned. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
You're going to take roll call.
We don't have roll call back here. Hold on. We got it.
Do we need to vote on that
We needed to vote on
resolution or that statement at all?
I don't think it was a resolution to vote on.
Anthony, do we need to?
There's no obligation to, if you want to.
It wasn't a resolution.
Vote on issuing a statement. It's kind of already been issued. It's already been said.
Okay.
All right. Roll call. Mr. Cawthon?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien?
Yes.
Dr. Sampson? Yes. Dr. Solis?
Yes.
Mrs. Zander?
Yes.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.